Hi ladies and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about why you're attracting toxic people, men, friends, all of that. First, let's start off with obviously your family and your childhood because this is where it all begins and this is usually how it even starts. Typically, we recreate what we see at home. And some of you guys were adopted, some of you guys were in foster care. Everyone has a different story. Some were even raised by aunties, grandmas, doesn't matter. Everything begins since your childhood. And typically, when we attract people, when it comes to friends, men, doesn't matter. We choose what is familiar to us. Even if what's familiar to us we didn't like, we didn't want to repeat, we constantly choose what is familiar to us because that is just what you connect with the most. And unfortunately, typically we recreate what we see in our parents' relationships or in whoever was your role model as a child. But the biggest issue is the fact that people think it's okay to recreate what they see at home, even when they know that it was wrong, that it ruined their life, that they didn't like what happened. They can watch their own parents or whoever raised them be unfaithful, belittle each other, abuse, and they'll say, oh, it runs in the genes. It's genetic because I've been exposed to it all my life, all my childhood, or it runs in the genes. Instead of putting in that hard work on themselves to actually go get therapy, to realize what's wrong, to, eventually be able to get into a good relationship, a healthy one. How many people do you see, for example, in court that use their childhood trauma or their parents as an excuse? I literally watched this one documentary or whatever where this guy sexually molested his child, and I'm sorry that I'm talking about this. I know it's not an easy topic, but he used him being molested as a child as an excuse. And he got away with that. Listen, I'm not a psychologist. I understand that, of course, something that happened to you in the past can, do something in your head to, make you repeat it. Yeah, but if people constantly watch these courts where people are using their childhood traumas and their parents as an excuse and get away with it and have their sentence lowered, why wouldn't other people do that too? And why would people want to go get help? Clearly, it looks like it's a normal thing to repeat what happened to in your childhood if people keep getting away with it. The best thing is that you literally have a choice to break that generational curse. You don't have to be broke, a single mom, abused, belittled, controlled, used, like whoever in your family was. You can decide that you want nothing to do with what your family had. You don't want the relationship that they had. And that you don't want to be like them, nor attracted to a partner like them. Build your own persona and work on becoming better each day. It's better for you to decide who you want to be and attract than to copy what is familiar to you. Also important to add, and for you to understand, that you can decide not to reenact all the things that made you unhappy in your childhood. You could literally be the first one to create a new and better future for your next generation. Take a look at who raised you and ask yourself, what were the good things that you would like to continue and apply? And what were the bad things that you never want to happen again and you just simply don't want to do again? You don't want anything to do with it. Force yourself to break out of that and out of all the bad habits that you've seen at home. And honestly, almost all of us chose a partner that's like our parents or whoever raised us. Sometimes it wasn't even the personality. Sometimes it had something to do with their looks that was very familiar. Whoever raised you, that was your role model for learning how to survive in the world. And it's so unfortunate that some people weren't even lucky enough to have a decent, mother or a father or anyone to raise them, because it's so extremely important with who you're going to become as an adult. They are how we learn our value system, how we relate to others, and our definition of what love is. This is why I never recommend being with someone who's toxic, somebody who's a cheater, abuser. Even if there's so many, YouTubers saying, every man cheats, it's okay, or every man's a narcissist, go choose your best one. Why would you do that to yourself? Literally, once you have kids with that person, your kids are gonna go and seek a person who's basically the same. Their partner will do the same. This is why, if you just listen to my advice, I always say, go for the simp, go for the nice guy. Because not only is he going to make your life easier, he's going to make their life better. Your kids will enjoy their life. And when they go look for a partner, they had a good role model. You can, go to sleep in peace knowing that your kids are not going to get effed over because at least they saw a healthy home. And children who come from a healthy home usually always seek a healthy partner. It's very rare that a child comes from a healthy home and is attracted to some narcissist or some cheater or an abuser. That is just not what they're familiar with. And just to give you an example, if a little girl had a mother who always picked on her, blamed her for everything, she will, most likely, grow up to find a partner that will do the same to her. Any child who feels shamed, judged, rejected by a parent, they seek the exact same partner when they grow up. People constantly ask, okay, well, we're adults now and we know that what happened was wrong, so why do we still choose this? The answer is so simple. It's simply because we're creatures of habit. We're used to what's familiar and what's comfortable to us. Even if it's something that makes us unhappy, we constantly gravitate to what we know. If you're suffering from this, therapy is extremely important. I've met people who went through this and they were able to make the changes themselves. Some people had to go and find people who are going through the same similar thing. Let's say the person came from an abusive home and they met somebody who was also from an abusive home. So they asked them what happened, how they made the changes that were need to be made. And then they were able to change from that. Some people are not able to, listen to others, read books about it or whatever, make the change that they need themselves. So they will need therapy. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you know that you came from a bad home, a bad childhood, something happened and it's affecting you, it's extremely important to take those important steps because you're never going to find, it's rare that you're going to find someone healthy. I've seen some people who came from those kind of homes didn't get the proper care that they need. And yes, sometimes they did find a good person, but that good person left them anyway because they just weren't able to keep up a healthy relationship. Children want is to be loved by their parents. When you grow up lacking this, and instead you have a parent that shames and rejects you, your mind can take that shame and reject as a form of love, because you don't know any better or have anything to compare it to. This can cause you to have a partner who also shame and rejects you, but your mind thinks that that's love. You think they love you, but really, they're just shaming and rejecting you just like your parents. So how exactly do you stop this pattern? First, don't even bother blaming your parents. It won't change anything. You can't control the actions of others. You can only control your own. You need to choose the right actions that will move you forward to a better and healthier life instead of a life full of drama and pain. I constantly mention in my previous videos not to tell men about your bad childhood, terrible parents that you had, your terrible decisions, because it will be used against you. And here I'm going to give you some examples. If your father cheated on your mom, and now you're seeing the same signs on your man, he's going to look at you, he's going to be like, you're crazy. Look, your father did this, and that's why you're going crazy. That's why you're trying to catch me cheating. And it will convince you that you're going crazy. Even if the signs are actually very clear and your intuition is really telling you, no, listen, something's really wrong. If you were sexually molested inside the family by somebody that you know inside the family, and now here you are, you have children and you're being overprotective and you don't want them to basically be with cousins, older cousins from his side, whatever, he's going to use it against you as well. He's going to be like, well, if something happened to you in your childhood, you've been molested and now you're not letting them play. Listen to me. Things that happen in your childhood or whatever trauma you had, it's good to be overprotective. It's good to make sure that your children won't have to suffer the same way you did. So I'm just saying certain things you should just be quiet about, and even terrible decisions, don't go off and sharing them to your own kids, because you'll be surprised with the amount of mothers who tell their kids, I was pregnant at 16, yada yada, and then all of a sudden their daughter comes home and she's pregnant at 16. You can't even get mad because she's going to look at you straight in the face and she's going to be like, well, mom, why are you mad? You've been pregnant at 16 too. You should understand. Certain things, I'm not saying every child is going to be going through what you went through. Not saying that at all, but I'm just saying you'll be surprised because it happens quite often. Doesn't mean, and I'm not saying to go and hide your trauma or to go repeat it. Go get therapy and be aware. Healthy men that can actually provide you a good life, they don't want women that come from a terrible household. They want women who come from a healthy home. Men know that if you're a woman who comes from a terrible childhood, terrible parents, or if you in general just made terrible decisions in your life, you carry a baggage that no man wants to deal with. And honestly, there's other different ways that they detect these things. For example, your line of work, any woman who did OnlyFans, prostitution, escorting, stripping, sugar baby even. Most women who do these kind of jobs, and this is not me to I'm not trying to offend anyone. Most women who do these jobs, they don't come from a good home. They don't have two parents that are actually healthy. This is just facts. I've not yet ever met a woman who actually came from a healthy home who did this line of work. I'm sure it exists. There's exceptions to everything. But chances are high that women who do these kind of jobs, they don't come from a healthy home. I have nothing against these jobs because I know a lot of people are going to get mad at me for saying it, but this is facts. I'm sure there's even research about it, stats. So if you don't believe me, go and look at that. Another way they detect this is through your voice. Usually women who come from bad, I don't know exactly specifically who gets this. I think it's women who get sexually molested or abused, where their voice, you can see that it's a fully grown woman, but her voice sounds like a child. You get what I mean? It's not even the fact that it's high tone, it's the fact that it just simply sounds like a child is speaking. If you didn't see her face, you would think that it's a 9-year-old or a 6-year-old talking to you. Another one is tattoos. Of course, the kind of tattoos you have, the amount of tattoos you have, and how big they are. That usually indicates that you come from a bad home. And piercings as well, like having so many piercings, especially in like weird places, like places that are not as common. You know, like those people who have like the whole face pierced. It's usually another sign. But yeah, listen, to end this video, I just want to mention that what happened to you in your childhood and the family that you had is not your fault, and it is beyond your control. But it will be your fault if your future generation suffers the same way that you did.